The Ford government is preparing to implement new measures it says are aimed at strengthening Ontario's bail system. The province says it'll make legislative changes to improve and increase the collection of forfeited bail money. It also intends to create permanent teams of prosecutors who'll handle bail hearings involving serious and violent crimes. The government says it will launch a review of the current bail system as it stands to make it more effective. The Premier had a lot to say about this today. He called the current system broken and put much of the blame on the backs of judges.
And once these judges get into their position, they have this sense of entitlement. That's what drives me crazy. We were democratically elected as a government, and I always say the legislature is supreme, meaning the people are supreme. When you get a mandate to do something, you can't have judges constantly overruling the government.
And the government says it'll introduce the legislative changes later this week. Our Jamie Goodfroy joins us live with the latest reaction to the Premier's plan. People have a lot to say about this. Some people think it's a good idea, others do not.
Yeah, and it really depends on who you speak to. We spoke with the criminal defense lawyer in the last half hour who responded to Premier Ford's comments that the system is broken. And a lot of people in law enforcement, at least the ones that we've spoken to over the last couple of years, will think the complete opposite of that. I want to bring in CTV's public safety analyst, Chris Lewis, and also a former OPP commissioner. Always appreciate your time, Chris. You've had a chance, I'm sure, to look at the proposed changes by the Ford government to bail reform. What do you make of those changes, and are they going to make communities any more safe?
Well, it's an extension of what they announced in 2024, which is a good thing because the province can only do so much. A lot of the bail and legislative and criminal code issues obviously are managed by the federal government. And the previous federal government, Liberal as well, made changes that really put more and more dangerous people out in the streets. Some of the changes, lightening up bail restrictions, allowing for more bail for those that were Indigenous or people of color because of their overrepresentation in the legal system. Well, there's issues there that need to be addressed undoubtedly, but if you're a violent offender, you're a violent offender. And of course, we had the young OPP officer murdered in the last couple of years by an Indigenous man that was out and shouldn't have been out. It was armed and killed a police officer. So the system is broken. It needs to be fixed in a variety of fronts. Too many people on the street committing violent crimes, released on bail, committing more violent crimes. So the province is doing what they can, and a big part of that is asking the new federal government to make positive changes.
Part of these proposed changes, including putting together a dedicated team of prosecutors that would present the most persuasive case possible at bail hearings. I can't help think that's a bit counterintuitive. Why isn't that happening already?
Well, for sure. But I think the Crown attorneys are overwhelmed with work. There's no doubt about it. And so are judges. But the Crown attorneys in particular have so many balls in the air at any given time. They can't be good at everything. Some Crowns are better at murder trials and some Crowns are better at traffic prosecution. So to have people that are dedicated to the bail issue, which is a huge issue of public safety and officer safety concern, makes sense. They'll get used to the way to do it, how to do it best, and be most familiar with all the processes therein.
Part of what the Premier had to say, he took straight aim once again at some of the judges who he calls bleeding heart judges who are essentially overruling the government. Talked about some of their decisions are based in their ideology. You touched upon the catch and release legislation that was implemented by the previous Liberal government, and that the fact that when it comes to these judges that they've been instructed to go a little bit lighter on sentences, off, basically presenting more bail options than putting these people behind bars. What's your take on that, and how difficult is it to have legislation like that repealed?
Well, I think it's really important that is repealed and that we move forward. Society generally wants bad people kept in jail. You can't keep everybody in jail. You've got fraud artists out there that are not a threat to public safety, but they're criminals. You've got all sorts of people that are doing acts that are criminal acts. You can't keep them all behind bars. But when people are out on bail for gun crimes, use of violence, and some very severe violent acts and gangbangers, and they're out on the street before the cops finish the report, there's something wrong with that system. And so the judges have to take it serious too. I mean, they're stuck with the rules that have been imposed by the feds, but sometimes they go overboard in terms of being even more lax. And that's not all judges, and they're hardworking, smart folks. I get that. But they need to do better. They need to keep in mind that the public and officers' safety is at risk here. And let's not always err on the side of the accused. They have rights, obviously, but let's make decisions that err on the side of public and officer safety.
Chris Lewis, appreciate your time. Thanks for the chat.
Anytime. Thank you.
And furthermore, Lena, Premier Ford also goes on to say that the most meaningful bail reforms do have to come from the federal government. He said that he did speak with Prime Minister Mark Carney after the election on Tuesday, and that he's confident that Mr. Carney believes in keeping communities safe. Back to you for now.
Yeah, this is something all levels of government are concerned about. Jamie, thanks so much.